What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a great week so far. Podcast time. Wait, before we start a podcast, I'm going to say it every time. Subscribe. It keeps the podcast going. And please hit reviews. I know there's a lot more of you that are listening out there that don't review. And it's the only thing that I ask you to do. If you can review, it would be amazing. The more reviews, the more people listen. And the more people listen, the better the guests, the bigger the guests, the more interesting the conversations, and also the more likely we can help new artists come through and introduce you to new artists so you can go and find amazing music, amazing athletes, amazing people, amazing just people. So yes, go subscribe and review, please. I love you for that. Podcast time, Brux. I was introduced to her during lockdown. Australian artist that's now living in New York. And I started talking to her just as she hit New York. Her music is unbelievable. It's just, I don't know how to describe it. It takes so much influence from so many places, but it sounds so good. And she is an amazing producer, songwriter, singer, everything, vocalist, everything you kind of wish you were as an artist. She is that. And she's also an amazing human being. So I'm going to let you guys listen to this one. It goes deep and it was really, really interesting. So without further ado, Brux. Miss Brux, what's cooking? How we going?
Hey, very good. It's toasty in here. The heater is a little bit too high, but I can't control it.
Oh, really? Oh, you're in New York, aren't you?
New York winter.
Just can't control any of the heating controls yourself.
No. But it's okay. I'm in the Bahamas for the next hour.
It's always amazing that in New York they just like control the heat for you. Do they have AC? Do they control the AC for you as well? Or do you not have AC?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I have like a window AC unit that it's such a pain in the ass to get to put in and then take out.
They're always so scary taking them in and out because it's like, am I gonna drop this on somebody?
Exactly. It's a real fear.
Yeah, I feel you. I wonder how many people have actually died because of that.
Oh my God. I don't think I could think about it because that just really freaks me out every time we take it out of the window. I just have a vision of it falling and then, lawsuit, goodbye music career.
I kind of want to Google this right now.
Yeah.
Because I think this is a fact. How many people have died in NYC?
Yeah. I'm on the 3rd floor as well, so that would be
from AC
fatal.
window units.
Yeah.
There's got to be something.
Surely.
We have found 0 confirmed cases of death by air conditioner.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
That's crazy, right?
Maybe no one takes them out. Maybe I'm the only one who changes it every season.
Thinking about it.
I just want to get more light in,
Yeah. Old buildings just living in old buildings sucks, doesn't it?
But you used to live here, didn't you?
Yeah. I miss it so much.
Do you miss it?
Oh my God.
Miss it?
So much.
Yeah.
It's like the best place in the world.
Do you think you'll move back?
When I'm rich. My goal, my ideal goal in life, there's not much I have to at the top of where I want to get to, I guess financially, but is I want to have a place in the UK that's like an old farm with a bunch of land, and then I want a place in New York. I'll be happy. Best of both worlds.
That would be ideal. Yeah. That's amazing.
How are you finding it? We first started talking during COVID, and you'd not long moved there, I believe.
Yeah, I was meant to move here in 2020, March. Obviously the worst time to move overseas. So I was stuck in Australia until January 2021. And it's been interesting. That's the word for it. It's been really difficult, but also just challenging, but I needed the challenge. I
Yeah,
think I was too comfortable living in Sydney.
that's
Um,
understandable.
yeah,
Australia is a very nice lifestyle. I understand
yeah,
why people like. It's not my favorite place, and like
yeah,
personally, to me, I wouldn't want to live there. But
mm,
I really understand why people love it so much.
yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. It's laid back. There's great cafe culture, um, beautiful landscapes. But yeah, I don't know that something about it for me anyway. Personally, this is just something that
Mm,
I'm sure other artists maybe don't feel the same way, but I just didn't feel like it was the right fit anymore
yeah.
as I changed direction with music and yeah,
I,
feels right now.
I'll be honest, and this isn't talking shit on Australia though. I think this is a valid conversation to have about not just Australia, just where you live and kind of challenging yourself as an artist. It's
Yeah.
like, but
Mm-hmm.
also Australia is everybody that I know that's an artist from Australia at some point in their career when they become successful or want to become successful, they have to step out of Australia
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
so far away from everything.
It
And
really is. It's so isolated. And I think COVID really shone a light on that, on a lot
yeah,
of things. Um, with just limited uh gigs,
yeah,
limited studio sessions, artists coming through. Like
yeah,
it's so isolated. And there really is tall poppy syndrome,
mm, yeah, that's real.
unfortunately. So,
Explain what that is, because I don't think everybody like in the UK we have that as well, but I don't
oh,
think
really?
it's not an American thing.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't exist here in
Yeah,
America. But basically, like, I think because Australia is so isolated, um, and the pool is quite small, it's a massive country, but, you know, it's not a massive cultural community. And so
mm,
you find that there's like a ceiling and there's also very I don't know, it's hard to explain, you know, objectively thinking about it.
you're not going to
Because it's
offend
so I
anyone. This is only your
huh?
opinion. Don't worry about offending anyone because you're really not. Because
I know.
that that's
I
what it
I
feels
do feel
like.
bad though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
but I understand what you're saying, and I think like tall poppies.
Basically basically there's a ceiling and um everyone has to like guard their success
Yeah,
because there's not enough to go around.
yeah,
I think that's how I see it. Um, Whereas over here, it's like there's no limit.
yeah,
Everyone wants to help each other. Everyone wants to see their peers win.
mm,
Um, and it's really encouraging.
yeah,
It's like it's a totally different environment
yeah.
creatively.
Yeah, I think in comparison to the UK and and Australia, I think it's the UK's slightly different.
Mm,
Um, where you'll get a bunch of shit trying to do what you love to do,
mm,
and then when you succeed, everyone's happy for you.
mm.
If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I've had friends from Australia that have moved because of that reason as well. And this
Mm,
isn't. I'm not talking shit on Australia. Like it's your home, right? It's where you grew up.
mm,
But like
mm.
that, you can't change the fact that that's how it is.
No.
And what? How do you change and how do you evolve as a human being, not just as an artist, but as a human being? And
Mm.
you by doing that, is you have to make a change, and your change was to move to New York.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like I even though it is so difficult here and stressful, um energetically it's very intense and very
Yeah,
loud, literally. Even though there's all these factors that may sound negative, like it's only been for the better
yeah,
for me to be in an environment where I am challenged and like challenged on every level.
mm,
um but it's kind of gets me thinking like, damn, I wish I did this when I was 25,
yeah,
26. I'm 32 now.
yeah,
But things roll out as they do, and yeah, I guess it's kind of a waste of time thinking about what if, like it's just what is now.
Yeah,
So
totally. But I think
go
it's
on with
also
it.
it's really interesting learning for other people that's listening and for your followers and people that aspire to be you and kind of are in the same situation as you or have been in the same situation as you. I think it's like we can all learn from each other, and I think
Mm,
like having that mindset and having that insight to go, if you're 22 years old and you're living somewhere and you're not happy, you go change. Like there's nothing
yeah.
stopping you. And I think like
Mm,
I I've been in situations like that in my career. I've been in multiple times. Um and I think hindsight's a great thing, right? And
mm-hmm.
we can laugh about it, but as long
Yeah.
as you do something for the future so that you kind of learn from that, that's all that matters.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
How has New York changed you as a person? Not even musically yet. I just want to talk about for
Yeah.
you as a
Personality
person.
wise,
Yeah.
I think it's encouraged me to be more direct with what I mean when I'm talking to people.
New York that
Um,
is so New York.
yes, everyone here is so direct. And when I first moved here, I thought it was rude,
Yeah.
but I realized like, no, it's not rude. It's not coming from a malicious. It's not a malicious intent. It's just like people haven't got time
That's it.
to waffle on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say what you mean. You get to the point. You move on.
Yeah.
Um, which is really refreshing.
Well,
So
there's no beating around the bush. Sorry to
yeah.
use that analogy, but it's like I find living in New York when I lived there, and I didn't live there for long, but I've spent a
Mm,
lot of time in New York. And the one thing that I worked out over the years is that everyone in New York, you have to hustle.
mm-hmm.
Everyone works. Like it's not like
Mm.
LA where no one works. It's like completely the opposite. Everyone works. Some people
Mm.
have multiple jobs. Like it's
Yeah.
constant because it costs so much to be there, but people love the life
Yeah.
so much that
Yes.
they will hustle so hard just to have the life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Sorry.
no,
Yeah.
go for
I was
it.
gonna say I went to the dentist yesterday. And I had to get a mouth guard because I grind my teeth and I have been for the last 10 years. And I just asked the dentist, I was like, does everyone get a mouth guard? Is this a common thing? She's like, yeah, literally everyone in New York has a mouth guard. Like we're living in a city where everyone grinds their teeth,
Yeah,
everyone has a therapist.
yeah.
It's chaotic.
Do you have a therapist?
I'm trying to find a new one. I'm trying to
Yeah.
break up with my Australian therapist. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Well, we've just done it for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's just too hard over Zoom. I find it difficult. I need someone in person. And everyone here seems to have a therapist, which I love. Like there's no shame around it, which I
How
find back home it's kind of a bit weird. Some people think like, oh, you know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's the same in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is there's a part of it. This is I have like ups. I have like a pros and cons with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is my view on it, and please tell me what you think. Um, America, like I grew up with my parents are therapists, so I grew up around therapists my whole life.
Oh wow.
Which I was extremely fortunate to have.
Hmm.
There's an annoying fly flying about. And it it was never a thing in the UK. People having therapy, really, like friends. Not like none of my friends I knew, like growing up, had therapists, or like
Hmm.
it wasn't really spoke about in media or anything like that. I came to
Mm-hmm.
America and it was completely the opposite.
Hmm.
But it was almost completely the opposite in like a blase thing, where like you have a therapist, but you're not actually willing to change. You're not doing any
Mm-hmm.
change. You just have a therapist because it's
Yeah.
fashionable to have a therapist.
Yeah.
And I think there
Yeah.
should be like a bit more of a balance where like, okay, you've identified the issue that you need to have a therapist. Now go find a good therapist, build a relationship
Mm.
with a good therapist, and then make the change in your life so that
Mm.
your life is better. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the balance that for me personally, that I've kind of witnessed on the outside.
Right.
Um,
Of it being a trend
of
rather
it.
than a necessity
Yeah.
for each individual. Yeah. I
What's
see
your
that
thoughts?
side of it. Yeah. I I think like, I don't know. I guess, do you notice that in New York or LA?
I
Or I guess
noticed that
both.
just in America.
Mm, yeah. I feel like over here in New York, I think because like the work ethic is just so crazy
Mm,
that like people are pushed to their limits and beyond.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I've seen a lot of weird shit over here.
Mm,
Like, yeah, just crazy stories of people just imploding
yeah.
in public.
Yeah.
Um, it's crazy. I guess like I'm glad I wasn't here during the pandemic when there was the massive lockdown, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. But yeah, it's just getting back to like the point of like it's just really comforting to know that, it's kind of the norm here. Everyone's kind of looking after their mental health and isn't afraid to talk about it, which is really nice.
Yeah. I think it's when I first came to America, it was more so everyone would talk about their religion. This was
Hmm.
years ago, like years ago when I was like 18. So like a long time ago. I can't even do the maths.
Yeah.
And it was very much like religion based. And a lot of people would like, it would come up in the first conversations of like your religion. And
Mm.
now over the years, I've seen that change more about mental health and things like that,
Mm.
which is really important. I think we live in a world where we go to the doctors and look after our bodies, or some people do. We
Mm-hmm.
go to the gym, we work out, we exercise, we do all of that, and we're looking after our bodies, but we're not actually doing the brain doctor
Mm-hmm.
and looking after
The
actually,
invisible stuff.
yeah, the
Yeah.
stuff that actually really affects everybody.
Mm.
I saw a video
Yeah.
on Instagram. I follow this guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you've heard of him,
No.
but he's a business mogul dude. He like invested in Facebook and Twitter and Uber at the angel investment stage. He's made a fuck ton of money. He owns a
Mm.
company called VaynerMedia. It's actually based out of New York. And he was like talking to this guy like backstage somewhere, and this guy was like, I grew up poor. My family had nothing. I've turned my life around. I now have like a company worth like $100 million. I have the family. I have my kids. I have everything around me, but I still
Mm.
wake up every morning unhappy.
Mm.
And that was like, Gary was talking about therapy on that, and kind of how you need to go and deal with those things before you can deal with anything else and before you can enjoy everything else. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of the thing is like, and especially in this industry, I don't think it's just this industry, it's in life generally. But for me, is like, we live in a world where so much is expected of us on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis, from especially when you're in the public eye, like we are.
Mm.
So much is expected of us, and there's no days off really.
Mm. No.
When we have this phone around us, there's no days off.
Mm.
Even if you don't go on social media, there's no days off. There's always that in the head, like, oh, let me look at my Spotify stats. Let me look at this. Let me
Mm-hmm.
look at what,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So it's
Yeah.
like in a world where there's no off switch, you also need to be able to look after yourself internally so you can manage those things. And I think therapy is the way forward. And
Yeah.
I think everyone should do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be great if we were assigned a therapist at birth and like we just had, like, in primary school, you have a buddy system,
Yeah.
like the kindergarten kids. I don't know what it's called in America or UK, but you team up with the year 6 person
Yeah.
and they kind of like just help you
Yeah.
for that whole year. It's so cute.
Well, I think it's an educational purpose. I think like having therapy from a young age, not just because, like in the UK, you can get help when you're a kid in school, and they have like in-school counselors in the UK.
Yeah.
But like
But
realistically,
yeah.
that's only for like the kids that are going through a tough time.
Yeah. But I
that's
think it's important also to be educated about identifying
exactly.
deeper feelings. It's
Yeah.
not just surface level happy or sad or angry, like learning to understand your emotions is like, that should be a part of curriculum. It's crazy that it's not.
Yeah, I think I was talking to my sister not so long ago, and I think they started doing it. That she's got 2 kids, no 3 kids. Fuck, forgot the third. And I think they started talking about stuff in their primary school, now, and they're talking about feelings, which is really like, that's way new to me in school. Like
Yeah.
we didn't do that at
Yeah.
school, which I think is great, and hopefully
Yeah.
they're doing that everywhere. I think maybe it's becoming more and more kind
Yeah,
of
that's good.
popular, which is great.
Mm.
But I also think, like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for it. Somebody can ask me how I am, and I'm just gonna say, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Mm-mm.
It's like, it's an easy thing. Is that how you are as a person?
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah,
I base it around, like, I guess, how comfortable I feel
around that
with that
person.
person to
Yeah,
share. I guess I try and read the situation before,
yeah,
before sharing.
yeah.
I've been reading this book at the moment called Daring Greatly by Brené Brown.
Mm.
And it's like this interesting paragraph or section that she talks about oversharers. And she says, like, those people who we all know an oversharer. And it's like they're trying to hotwire a connection.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, it's like, it has the opposite effect completely
Yeah.
because you feel like you're just pulling away. Yeah, it's a great book. It's just really interesting, I guess, learning about how to communicate effectively and also like working on the relationship within yourself. So then, without getting too deep,
No, I get deep, because I think this is people need to hear this. It's like,
Yeah.
I think it's all good and well having you come on and talk about your music, but like, let's be honest, it's that, again, that surface level stuff. We're all human beings, right? And it's all about having a chance to actually talk about who you are as a person, and for people to know who you are as a person, and that you're not just Brux who writes music, if you know what I mean. And it's not just Will Clarke that writes music, or DJs and vice versa. It's like, and I think these are the things that people don't really discuss. I know it's fashionable to talk about mental health in certain ways, and it's been coming up a lot, especially in music, and which is great. But I think it's, I think it just needs to. I think we just need to normalize it, and then it'll normalize more in the industry as well.
Yeah.
Or in normal life.
Yeah.
Like just with your mates. I think, how many of you are like, I don't know what it was like for women growing up, for girls growing up, because I know for guys is like, for me it was, you don't really talk about your feelings to your mates until you get old, until I got older. And like I grew like really comfortable in myself, and built friendships around me that like were truly pure friendships. I think when you're growing up in school, you're kind of forced to have friendships because they're just the people
fully.
around you.
Yeah.
But it's only like now where like in the last, like, let's say 10 years, where I could been lucky enough to like make really close friends, and then I feel comfortable to talk to them about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I've noticed is that the more work that I try and do internally and like really chase, I guess, meaning, the more that I've put energy into that, it's strange. Like the more those are the kind of people who pop up in my life.
Yeah.
And that it's like this weird cosmic thing that's been happening, especially since moving here. I think also, it feels like a bit of a vortex here. Everyone who comes through this city is really searching for themselves and like really trying to make something of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is great to kind of, I guess, realize that those are the friends I've kind of found over here.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is just, it's traditionally seen as a weakness, but it's the only thing that connects you on a deeper level than just surface level shit, And it's just so important. Even when you're in a session, writing with another artist, there needs to be that vulnerability first before each person can like open up and feel safe to like throw ideas around and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes better music. Right?
Yeah.
Like, who doesn't love a sad song?
Yeah. It doesn't need to be sad either. It can just be, just direct and authentic. Not being fearful to talk about anything.
Yeah. I think for me, when it comes to like music, it's just having that real connection with the person that I'm in the session with.
Yeah.
or having a conversation with. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how can we, like, even if nothing comes out of this session, like,
Mm.
we've gained a relationship out of that session.
Yeah.
And whether that relationship lasts forever, whether that relationship lasts for the end of the session, you still have that bond with that person. And I think that's really
Mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. And it only works in our favor as like, human beings to connect. Like it's so interesting to zoom out and think of it as like, you know, we feel pain and suffering when we can't connect with people. So it's almost as if like there's something out there in the universe that we are made to be here to connect.
Yeah.
We have to, it's just part of our makeup,
Yeah.
We connect with the earth, we connect with each other, with animals, everything. Like it's only in our favor to work on that. And yeah,
Yeah.
I probably sound
Have,
like a freaking hippie, but
no,
woo!
I'm here for it. Have you felt the New York loneliness at all?
Mm, yeah. I I think it comes from a place of like what you were saying before, that everyone here is constantly hustling and
Yeah.
working. So everyone's off doing their own things all the time.
Mm.
It's all very like, I don't know, uh it's isolating in the sense of like, I don't know how to articulate it. Maybe like, I don't know. I'm having a blank.
No, I think if I can help, is
Yeah.
for me, or just for any major big city, is everyone's just doing their own thing,
Mm.
and sometimes it's hard to fit in with other people's doing their own things.
Yeah.
And
People plan like weeks ahead here. That's what I've
yeah,
noticed.
and you're not a priority, and I don't mean that you
Yeah, yeah.
directly, but
Oh
like
no.
no one's a priority. And I think
Mm.
it's the thing is like everyone's trying to hustle. So sounds awful, but if somebody gets a better option, they're going to get the better
Mhm.
option because it
Yeah.
might benefit them. And don't necessarily agree with that, but yeah, it
Mm.
is what it is. And I think if you don't have friends in a big city like New York, it's a very
Mm.
lonely city because everyone's just on the go. And
Mm.
it's hard to make friends in big cities. It
Mm.
is. It really is because everyone's got their own
Yeah.
little cliques and
Yeah, fully. I think like what it's taught me is to like initiate
yeah,
catch ups and be really like, inviting and inclusive, and just try and um come out of my shell a bit. Back in Australia, I feel like, yeah, again, I was just comfortable, but over here, like, yeah, I want to
yeah,
host parties, host little dinners,
yeah.
like have people over for a jam, just organize things, introduce people to each other who I think would get along. And that's good that I've kind of learnt that,
That's the
brought
best,
that into
right?
my toolkit. Yeah.
That's the best when you have friends, different friend groups, and then you bring them all together, and then they make
Mm,
friends out of that.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It makes
Hmm.
that's my goal for me
Yeah.
is to bring more people together friend
Yeah.
wise because I think
Uh-huh.
like as touring artists we can't always be there. We're not always
Mm,
there. But like and then the people that work 9 to 5s and are always there, they can have those connections with all the people. Like
mm,
it's so nice. I love seeing that. Makes me so
yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Even like with my parents. My parents are like they're friends with my friends.
Oh,
Like,
really? That's
yeah,
great. I
like
love that.
my friends will go around for dinner and like
Oh, yeah.
hang out with with my parents, and it's like
Hmm.
it's great. I love it.
That's awesome.
How's the move been musically for you?
Um, I think more frustration and noise is coming
Yeah,
through the music now, because I feel like I have to shout a little bit louder to kind of
breakthrough.
be noticed. Yeah, to
Yeah,
break through here. Which I am not mad about. I love it. I
mm,
feel like it's more freeing
yeah,
to not hold back and to just make whatever I want, whatever comes to mind. Um, and just try and be as crazy as possible, because everyone is weird here and everyone's crazy. So I can just join the crazy.
what's your kind of theory behind having to be louder and everything be seen? What's that about? Because you're still releasing music on the same platforms as before, etc.,
Mm.
etc. What's that kind of mindset about?
Um, I feel like it also comes from a place of, you know, being a female in the industry as well. As much as I don't really want to, draw that card again.
You drew it, so pull
But
it. So
but
bring
it
it
is.
up. Let's talk about it.
Okay. It comes from that as well. Like I feel like I have to work twice, three times as hard, shout as loud as well to be noticed amongst male peers in the same industry. And like I feel like that's just how it is. Um and I feel like I also um have an advantage if I play into my masculine tastes of dance music.
Mm.
Which I'm naturally drawn to anyway, so that's great that works out. Um but yeah, I think it's complex. It's a few layers of different things. Being in New York, yes, but also being a female producer and wanting to I'm also very petite as a person, so maybe that's like a weird complex as well,
You got
Little dog.
short man
Yes.
syndrome. It's fine. I've got that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Like
I
I think
want
it's
to talk
that as well.
I want to talk about the female thing because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm not a female. Just putting that out there. And I really struggle when I hear a female talk about that because for me, like I don't look at anyone any differently, if you know what I mean. Like if you make good music, you make good music and you're part of the
Mm,
crew. Like that's
mm,
simply how I look at it. And it's naive of me to think that everyone doesn't think like that.
mm,
However, I kind of want to hear from your perspective, like what is that feeling? How does that how does explain? Because it doesn't make sense to me that happens, if
mm,
that makes sense. So I think that's the thing is like I'm like I hear it a lot. Um,
mm.
I understand the concept, but I don't see it myself because everybody I surround myself with aren't like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like I don't want to say that all men think like that because
Yeah,
it's not true. It's comes down to each individual, how they were brought up, how they were taught to respect women.
totally. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's so complex. Yeah, like I still experience it. Um yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to understand as well because
Can you give me like an example?
yes.
Because that's the only way that I would be like, okay, that makes sense. And like, you don't obviously have to give names or anything like that, but like,
Yeah.
whatever.
No,
Like,
I've
I,
got some got some examples. I guess like one that comes to mind is years and years ago, I was on tour and I used to with my old project with different thing
yeah,
where I would just sing, I would produce all the music, but I would have a friend of mine play keys and,
yeah,
play the backing track. And he had like a synth station set up. So it's just me and my friend Alex. Um, and I remember some of the shows when I was on tour, uh, some of the punters in the audience came up after and they were congratulating him on like the music and
yeah.
producing it and asking him production questions. And he was saying to these people like, "Oh no, like I don't do it. Like Liz produces it. Liz writes it." Um, and he told me that afterwards, and it's like, that makes me feel weird.
Why does that make you
um,
feel weird?
I think because maybe I feel embarrassed for them. I feel embarrassed for the people who assumed that.
Yeah.
It's like an icky kind of, like I've stopped taking it personally now. Years
Mm.
ago when I was younger, I did. But now I just kind of, you just have to call people in line or say something or just be really direct. Um, so yeah, that's one example.
Yeah.
People
Is that just
messaging.
the like you think that it's like what's the word? It's like an assumption people make that you don't produce your own records
Oh
and
yeah.
and all of what do you think that assumption is from?
Um, I think it's the assumption of like women not being perceived to be tech savvy or interested in synthesizers, or a woman shouldn't be interested in drum machines. You know, like it comes from that place of like, misogynistic stereotypes.
Yeah, I guess it is to a certain extent, yeah. I think I want you to be honest, and I don't want to sound like a dickhead, all right? So like whatever I say, if it offends you, I apologize.
I won't be offended.
No,
I'm
but
happy to talk about it.
I think I was talking to somebody about this. I was talking to one of my best mates about this the other night. And my theory behind all of this is when and you're in with where I'm at with it as well, is like, for me, electronic music for the last, up until maybe 5 years ago, was a really weird, geeky thing to get involved in. And usually, which is awful to say, it's similar to gaming, right? It's usually just a bunch of weird dudes. And that is like, that's totally fine. Whatever, that is what it is. Obviously, in that, there are women involved, and women are involved. And yes, it might be a minority. It might not be. I don't know. But for me, like, the way I view it is that back when, like, how long have you been producing for?
Like 10 years.
So yeah, you've been producing like way before it was like a fashionable thing to be a DJ or be a producer, right? And I think now it's very fashionable to be a DJ and a producer. It's something that anybody can look at as a career, not just as a passion. It's, oh, these people are making money. These people are famous. These people are kind of like how when I was growing up, I would look at a pop star. Like, that is one way to be in the music industry, is I can be a pop star. Not that I couldn't fucking sing, but like, that is one way to be in the music industry. I'm going to sing. I'm going to be a pop star, blah, blah, blah. And I want you to tell me if you think I'm wrong, because I think this is me coming from a man, and I don't know, but like, singers was much more of a female thing to go into the music industry as a singer, not as a producer, because it was a weird world full of geeky, weird dudes at a certain point. And I think, go on. But
I was going to say, like, I feel like that's perceived because, you know, major labels would sign attractive young women and have them as puppets. You know, they would have producers and writers create the music, but at the forefront, like, the face of the project is an attractive woman who would sell a record because she's pretty and marketable. So I feel like that is part of it as well. Like, that's ingrained in us to be like, oh, women equals singer, you know.
But I get 100%. But I also I'm not saying this, there's other versions of that in the male world, right? Like a fitness magazine, right? Like a dude with a bunch of muscles on a fitness magazine, they're selling that because it's a dude with a bunch of muscles. Like, there's that in the male world as well. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying is it wrong? I don't know. And I think that's the thing. But I think going back to what I was saying is that now it's fashionable to do that. I think what's happening is there's a lot of people that don't write their own records, male and female. And there's nothing wrong with that in my world. In my world, like, I think realistically 95% of the people that listen to all of our music don't actually think about the process of the making of the music. There's only that 5% that, whatever, it's 5%. But what I'm getting at is now, because it's fashionable, is that it's the people that have been writing music for the last 10, 15 years that are now writing people for the people that want to make music but can't, because you know how long it takes to become good at writing records. Like, you've been doing it 10 years, you write amazing music now, but like the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years of your career, you probably weren't making great music, if you know what I mean. It takes a process. And are people nowadays that are becoming DJs, producers, they don't have 10, 15 years to learn how to make music. So other people are doing it for them. And I
Or
think that's,
splice.
pardon?
Or splice.
Or splice. Exactly. And that's why we have like music that's very meh. Because
it's oversaturated.
yeah. And I don't know what your thoughts are that. And like I'm really happy to be wrong. I want like, but that's kind of where I feel this thing is where the whole male female kind of perception is at this moment in time. And yes, there's lots of stereotypes I completely disagree with it, but I also think there's stereotypes on both sides of the both sides of the spectrum. That I don't. Stereotypes are stereotypes because of something, but because of a reason. They're not just made because they're made. But I think also some stereotypes are true and some stereotypes are wrong, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And should I personally let a stereotype control how I feel? I don't know. And change.
You might not have a choice.
You might not have a choice, but you can. But I guess going back to the therapy side of things is the stereotype is based on other people's perceptions and other people's opinions. At me as a human being, I can then decide what I do with that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how I respond to those feelings, that those feelings come up to me.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I don't know what, I just rambled a bunch of shit, and I don't know. I'd like to know your thoughts on that. And I'd like to kind of know your counter, not argument, but your counter thoughts, like how it is perceived for you.
I think like another thing that comes up for me is like media has so much influence and power. And a lot of it comes from that as well.
Yeah.
You know, movies, books, God, religion. There's just so much that is spun into this. Like it's, I don't know if it's as much as saying like it's a recent thing to be deconstructing. Like this is just something that's been ingrained outside of music as well.
Totally.
Like if we don't give music as the example. I feel like the change has only happened in the last little while because, you know, accessibility, technology, you know, it is more accessible now to be making music as a bedroom producer. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do an online course. So that's how I see it, I guess, with like, you know, women coming onto the scene more so now, because there is space, there's enough room. Yeah, I mean, I see it changing. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a negative Nancy about the whole thing. Like, it is changing, but I still do experience, and I'm sure a lot of other women, female identifying artists, do experience this still.
Totally. Yeah, I got friends that female friends that do. I'm just trying to like really understand what that is as well.
And you know what? Another thing I want to add as well, like it could be something as small as like the influence. I mean, how big the influence is. It could be something as small as a male artist choosing supports and not just choosing men to support, or not just choosing their friends to support. Like that is something that is a responsibility, I feel. That, you know, it's important to be extra thoughtful and considerate of like, oh, okay, I'm, you know, got to think of supports.
Yeah.
It's something that I've noticed quite a lot recently. Still happens. And that's just really about like, you know, doing the work, educating yourself and digging a bit deeper than just bringing friends on board.
I don't disagree with you. I really don't disagree with you. I also think you can have friends as females that are as good as well, and you can have a crew of female and male friends, and equally will have just as good of a party. Some of the best DJs in the world are females. I think.
Yeah, fully.
I think we're very tribal human beings as well. And I think that kind of plays a factor, which I don't agree with. But I think it's just about the other thing that I also struggle with is I've seen certain people. You might be able to help me with this as well.
Okay.
So I've seen, like, we've all seen it in the last 3-4 years where a lot more females have come through, and it's great, like more female lineups, etc., etc. And then I've seen occasionally where a female would like talk about it, and they say they feel like they're just ticking a box on a lineup. And I understand that totally as well, but I also struggle with that when it's like in my view, because I'm looking at it as a guy and I'm not looking at it as a female, so I kind of want a female perspective on it. And it's like, well, I'm ticking a box on a lineup as well. Like, we are in the music business, and I am being booked on this party to tick a box, whether that box is so people can listen to my music, whether that box is for me to sell tickets, whether that box is for my associations. I don't know what those promoters are ticking the box for, but they are ticking a box.
Yeah. I get what you mean. I think it comes from, like, the problem with it is that, you know, it's as if women are a token of, like, oh, I booked a female producer, or oh, I booked a female DJ to be on the lineup. Whereas it's not really a token or a prize or a thing for men, as that's how I understand it. So I feel like it's hard to compare the two because it's not an even playing field, Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I can't really relate because I'm not a female. So I'm like, I think that's why I'm asking you these questions. And I actually really like this because I didn't know this conversation was going to go down this route.
Neither. I should have had a glass of wine. I'm sweating more than normal.
Yeah. But I think, like, that's the thing is, like, I just want you to be, like, truly brutally honest. Because, like, I at the end of the day, like, I want the best for everybody. I want everyone to win around me. The more people that win, the more likely I'm gonna win. And in a selfish way, like, realistically, if you blow the fuck up tomorrow, like, I know you, I might have an opportunity where you can help me, or where I can help you, or vice versa. And also, it's just so nice to see everybody win. There's so much space in this industry. People don't realize there's so much space. Like, just because somebody got a gig, it doesn't mean you're not going to get a gig. Like, there's so much space, and there's room for everybody. And I wish everyone would kind of see it like that.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, on my label, on my nights that I put on, I book people that I really care about, and also that I think are really dope. And they're not the biggest artists in the world. They're just people that I think are dope, and that potentially I can help them. And potentially, if they can if they can have a career out of me helping them, then fucking great. Like, that's the win for me.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's the best scenario, best case scenario.
I guess, what's your goals in your career?
I would really like to produce for more artists.
Yeah.
As well as my own project, but I really do get a kick out of producing other music, other artists, especially other women.
Yeah.
I also really want to get into scoring for film. That's something that I'm really interested in.
Have you done any before?
I've just started composing for ads, which has been really fun. Been doing that for the past year. And then I might have like a sci-fi horror thing coming up that I'm helping a friend on
Amazing.
for a film. But yeah, like I guess I'm more interested in like fulfilling myself creatively in many different lanes.
Yeah.
I don't just see myself as an artist
Mm.
with the Brux project.
Yeah.
There's so many things I'm interested in and that I want to work on and do. Yeah, you know, also with my original stuff, like I think I want to do an album.
Cool.
Maybe I'm ready to move on to something a bit bigger.
As
Like a
Brux?
larger body of yeah,
Yeah.
it's a larger body of work. Um yeah,
What is it for
a lot of
you? What
collaboration.
is it for you that makes you want to do an album?
I think I want the space to kind of fully experiment
Yeah.
rather than feeling like I have to have um what's that silly term? It's like just basically hit after hit after hit. Like
Yeah.
all fillers. No, what is it?
All killers, no fillers.
All killers, no fillers. Yeah. Yeah. I want fillers.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you on that.
I just yeah.
Go on, carry on.
Yeah, like one album that really has resonated me since the first time I listened to it, and it still does, is the Subtract album from like 2011,
Yeah.
I think.
Great album.
You know, it just has so much dynamic and movement, and it really does explore so many different facets of electronic music.
Yeah.
And I just want the space to be able to do that. Yeah.
How would you, have you thought about how you would do that?
Yeah. I think what I want to focus on is like bringing other artists in and make it as collaborative as possible. So like especially showcasing other female talent. That's something that's really important to me. And yeah, like, you know, in New York here, I've just met so many amazing musicians, experimental musicians.
Yeah.
Like people interested in like really wacky sound design, Foley stuff, you know. I just want to make something that's still at its core accessible. Doesn't mean it has to be pop, but you know, just something that just really satisfies me creatively.
Well, your music walks a line for me. And it always has like really interested me. And I was listening to some of it before we got on the podcast. And it's, I don't know how to describe it, which is the most perfect thing for me when it comes to music, because it's like you can't put it in a box. And I love that. It reminds me similar of like the Bloghouse days, but also like electro, and then also some really cool techno in between, and like just like you bring so many genres together. And I think realistically, like from an outsider's point of view, an album of that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Because it's like,
I feel like, yeah, sorry.
No, go on.
I was going to say, like, I feel like there's pros and cons to that with the music that I make. You know, I feel like at times it's hard for people to place me. And that trickles down to like being booked for shows.
Yeah.
Like, how am I perceived? Am I the right artist for that support? You know, but at the same time, like I don't know, I don't want to confine myself to one sound palette. It's hard. It's hard doing this kind of direction at such an early stage in my career when I'm still trying to get people into the project.
I think if I was to put my manager hat on, if I was wanting to be a manager, right, and or not even that, just as somebody else, like we live in a world right now in the DJ world where people want like automatic fast hits. Like it's like you're either massive already and you can just release what you release, or you're coming up and you're just using samples from old 90s R&B hip hop records.
Yeah.
to like gain any success. And that's fine. That's whatever that takes.
Mm.
But, and I'm not saying that's not people being artists. It's just, that's just a way they are finding a way to become more commercial, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But I think the level of artist to where you're at, or to who you are as a person and as an artist, it feels like you have your own identity as an artist. And I feel like if you were to do an album, I feel like it would actually benefit more than doing singles.
Mm.
Because you always then have that body of work that people can go
Mm.
and be like, this is Brux. And
Mm.
I don't know, like for me is like Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, Moby, Daft Punk, Faithless, like all these like legend acts. They were all album artists, and they still are all album artists. Like, and I think there's something really special about that but I think what happened is the commerciality and how streaming kind of changed things for all of us. That you have to hit that in 2 weeks, that first record. And if it doesn't get any love in the first 2 weeks, it's on to the next, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to like actually create lots of kind of genre bending music, and then you're releasing singles, it doesn't always make sense to people because they don't know what you're going to get, right?
Fully.
So I think like, I think it would be fucking amazing if you did it and you were just an album artist. And yeah, like you can come up with interesting ways to release them. Like you're not just going to drop like 15 records. That just wouldn't work nowadays. No one does that. But like, unless you're Taylor Swift or Drake. But like,
yeah,
I think like having an album would be amazing. And then, because for me as an outsider, I don't necessarily look at you as like the DJ producer. I look at you as somebody that's like more of an artist. I would rather see you and this is only me being selfish, I'd rather see you as like a live show and like you doing your vocals, you playing the keys, you doing drum machines or whatever you need to do. And that's a live thing. And I think that's way more interesting to me than you playing your records as a DJ.
Right. Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you bring this up because this is something that I think a lot about, and I have been thinking a lot about in the last 3 months, which I've found really difficult because I feel like I change my mind every day of like, oh yeah, I should do this. I'll go in that direction. Or, one thing that comes up for me as well is I ask myself like, or just in general for all artists, is an artist only taken seriously in the industry once they release an album? What if an artist never releases an album?
Yeah.
Like, and how does that translate to dance music or like in pop? I feel like that's a thing.
Yeah.
But in dance, it's like a whole different playing field.
Yeah.
Which I don't really know the answer to. What do you think?
I don't think there is an answer, but for me, if I want to be very egotistical to myself, I think it's more of a legacy thing. And I look at artists that release albums way more higher up in the artist level than artists that just release singles.
Right.
I haven't released an album, so I'm still in that realm, but I will eventually do an album one day. And I will eventually want to be my goal is to turn into a full album artist where I'm not releasing singles at all. It's a process. Why? What's your thoughts?
At times I do feel like, yeah, if I think about how I perceive other artists, other electronic artists, if I see that they've made an album, something inside of me thinks like, oh, okay, they're on track. They have shit going on. There's a machine behind them.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean a major label, but like there's intention. There's a long-term intention there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have done an album as another project
Yeah.
years ago, and I fucking hated it. I hated the process. I think that's what's been pushing me back at times. When I'm seriously considering doing a Brux album, I think of just how painful it was to do my Elizabeth Rose album. And, just I'm in a different place now, obviously, creatively. Like, I can't compare myself to
you're not doing
6 years ago.
You're also not doing Elizabeth Rose for a reason,
No,
right? You're doing
no.
Brux for a reason.
Exactly.
So it's like taking your old relationship into a new relationship.
Exactly. It's not relevant.
No.
It's not relevant. So, that's just my own insecurity. I need to let go of that.
Yeah.
But there is residual stuff there of memories of making an album
Of course.
once upon a time.
You're never going to get that away, are you, until you make an album?
Yeah.
I just I just look at artists, like look at Bonobo, for example. Bonobo is actually a really good example for me. Is because you listen to Bonobo and then you go see him DJ and it's two completely different artists.
Right.
Same with Jamie XX. Jamie XX, you listen to his album, two completely different artists.
Yeah, true.
And then Chemical Brothers. You go see Chemical Brothers, you listen to Chemical Brothers' album, you go see them live, like do a live show, and they're redoing their album. You go see them DJ, it's a completely different show.
Yes, yeah.
And I think I kind of want that back again. I want artists to be able to just fully express themselves. And I'll be lying. Like, you still have to look at the commercial side of things as how are you gonna market this to people? Like, I'm not that well inclined, and I don't think you are as well, but tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like, I'm not just going to put music out just because I love the music. I want to put music out so everyone else loves the music, and commercially it does well. I'm not looking to make #1 pop records, but I'm looking to have some sort of success from that. So there's a level of pressure from that. But I think, like, I was listening to the new Bonobo album, or the newest Bonobo album, the other day, and I'm like, this is fucking beautiful music. This is great records. And he's also one of the best DJs I've ever seen in my life. And there's no one, well, I don't know him, and I'd love to kind of talk to him about it. But, like, it's also, he's just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And that's so authentic. It's exactly. It's so authentic. And and I think it goes back to what you were saying, is like putting out bangers and bangers and bangers. And there's so much expectations on those one records for them to do well, because you want to get booked as a DJ, because you want to do this, because you want to do that. But it's like, I think there's a bigger plan to. There can be a bigger plan and a long term. It's a long game. I'd rather play the long game. I'd rather be.
Yeah.
Look at Black Coffee. Black Coffee, I think he's released like how many? I think he's released like 6 albums.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Exactly. I didn't know him until like hadn't heard of him until like 4 or 5 years ago, and he'd done like 5 albums before that. And I think that's the thing, is like, we're in this for the long game, but I think because we only see the quick success of people on social media and all of that, it's it's also like, you've been producing for 10 years. Like, you forget the 10 years journey that you've taken to get to where you're at now.
Yeah. Yes. I have to remind myself. We all do.
Yeah.
Because with social media, it just fucks with our head of like
100%.
instant success. It's like, it's so damaging.
And also, you're talented enough to go and make a record that will give you instant success, but there's something stopping you. Right?
I promise to make an album. There we go. It's recorded.
Yes.
2023, Brux album incoming.
Oh, we got there. That was good. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I can't get back on my word. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to lean into it.
I think it's just about having fun, right?
Yeah.
Having fun.
Yeah. You got to leave behind the fear. It's only going to be good.
Yeah. And you're in like a new place. You're in New York.
Mm.
It's a very different place than Sydney to write something.
Yeah. God, like I've got enough tracks for an album, 2 albums, but I've just got like analysis paralysis.
Do you have like a big team around you?
No.
Do you have anyone?
No. I finished up with management back in May. No booking agent over here. I've got a booking agent back home in Australia.
Yeah.
But I'm flying solo.
What was the reasoning of leaving management? Or obviously you don't have to go into too much details, but why is being free solo a choice by yours?
No, it wasn't. But
Okay.
in hindsight, I'm actually glad it happened.
Yeah.
Because it was just the end of, everything has to come to an end. I'd been with them for 5 years.
Yeah.
It just got to a point where it just wasn't making sense anymore. And yeah, I have no bitterness. It actually worked out really well.
Love that.
And, once I split, I then went on to, organize my whole EP campaign.
Yeah.
Producing the EP, getting it mixed, mastered, directing the artwork, like getting the remixes together, releasing it. I just really needed to do that by myself. I realize now.
Such a dope EP as well.
Thank you.
It's so dope. Like, so good. That acid line is crazy.
Thank you.
Do
yeah, so I just needed to do it.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, I wasn't seeing the pros of it. I was like, holy fuck, like I don't think I can do this,
Yeah.
But I've gone so far that I need to just finish it and put it out. But now on the other side of it, it's just, like I'm glad I did that. I kind of got a peek into the machine a bit, how it all works. And it's given me clarity of like what I need, I guess, next for who else I bring in into, onto the team.
I think it's really interesting as an artist to learn how it all works as well and not just rely on everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Like everyone's replaceable in the sound. That sounds horrible, but it's like
it's true though.
It's so true. And
yeah,
I think learning everything and knowing how everything works just gives you so much more I guess this is the wrong word to say, but power to control your destiny as who you are and what you become.
Yeah.
In
well, knowledge
world.
is power, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think by going through management, going through different agents and having different experiences, you just learn more about what you actually want.
Yeah.
And then getting to a point where you finally find somebody that just gets it.
Yeah.
That's the hardest bit. Go on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like what's the weirdest thing as well is that this exact scenario happened 5 years ago.
Wow.
And it was at a time where everything just flipped on its head, like straight 180, totally different direction. So I'm kind of at peace with it now because I feel like it means to me that like I'm about to change it up again.
Yeah.
And something, something bigger and better is going to happen. It's a weird coincidence of like, I'm very like spiritual and I like to read into signs and meaning, deeper meaning on things. So, I'm seeing the positives of it.
I think that's all you can do, right? Because otherwise you can wallow in in the past, but that's not going to really move anything for the future. It's not really going to help you kind of move forward. If you constantly look back, it
just kind of clouds you. You can't see anything positive coming in because you're only seeing or focusing on the past. Yeah.
How has I know I'm concentrating on the move to New York, but I feel like this is like a huge part in your life. So I kind of want to talk about it a little bit more, but like, how has that musically affected affected the change in music, or has it not?
Yeah, no, it has. Yeah. As we touched on it before, like I'm definitely making music now that has more like fuel
Yeah.
behind it in terms of like frustration and grit.
Yeah.
And I think it's also brought me to a place where I just really don't care as much now about it being perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just making the tracks. I'm not tweaking it too much.
Yeah.
Um, it's good as is. It's like I feel it's as good as it is. So
Yeah.
there's that as well. That's come up in my creative process. For years, I would just work on songs until I fucking murdered them.
Yeah.
And they're just not. They have no, sparkle to them anymore after a while of
Yeah.
working on something so long. But yeah, I've kind of changed. That's kind of changed my creative process living here.
Is it more of like a speed thing where you're just trying to get records done and then it's like move on to the next? Or is it the case of you're purposely like, you'll do a record and you're like, okay, don't touch it because you're going to fuck it?
Yeah, I think it's more so the latter. Like I just try and, be a medium for it to
Yeah.
course through me, the ideas. And then I don't want to like mess with it after
Yeah.
that. Of course I'll tweak it a little bit, like I'll
Yeah.
arrange it and then like fix transitions, dynamics, whatever. But if something comes to me in a session where it's like, holy shit, I'm so excited about this, then I won't mess with it too much. And those were the 3 tracks on the EP those were 3 songs over the years that have made me feel like that.
Yeah.
So it made sense to slap them together.
It's the best feeling though, isn't it? That
Yeah,
it's so
it
good.
is. Yeah.
It's something that
Feels very mystical though. It's like I can't explain it. I don't think anyone can,
that's the joys. I call it luck. I just call it the luck of the music industry. Like,
Yeah.
I talk about this quite a lot and how luck is a huge part of everything that I feel in this industry. And yes, there's a saying, you make your own luck, but like in the studio, for me, making your own luck is just putting the hours into the studio, and you're going to press a button on a synth that you'd never done before, or you accidentally walked past it and knocked it and it made the best sound in the world. And
Yeah.
you're like, fuck.
Yeah, like there it is.
There it is. Yeah, I've been waiting for that for the
Don't
last
touch it.
for the last 5 years of my career. Why have I not been able to do that?
Because we get out of our own way when those accidents happen, like
yeah. I've recently been working with other people in the studio, and I've always been a very like insular producer where I go and find a sample or I get sent a top line and then kind of just work it that way. And I've been, since COVID more so, I've been doing more writing sessions in person and also having somebody come into my studio that's also like an insane keys player, also can produce, and just having a second pair of ears on my stuff. Because I also had that kind of I had something during COVID where I was like, I want to do more music. I don't just want to write club music. I don't want to just write techno. Like,
right.
I don't just want to be known as that person that can just write a club banger. And for me, having other people around in the studio is so nice. It's like the nicest feeling, and I feel like you make the best music by doing that. How in New York do you do sessions? Because I don't really know New York as like a studio place where people go and do sessions and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a place just like LA, but the opposite of LA. Really, that's what I was trying to say. Here I feel like everyone's got a little home studio.
Yeah.
I'll do sessions like in person, either at my little home space here, and
Yeah.
it's literally tiny.
Yeah.
If I could move the computer, I could actually, let's try. Yeah. Yeah, this is it.
It looks
This is
cool
it.
though. It's a vibe.
I've really jammed as much as I can in here. Um, yeah, I do well when I'm social and when I'm in a session with someone physically, because I don't know, I f I feed off energy, and, like,
Yeah.
it just helps so much if you're on a vibe and then the other person's like, "Oh, fuck yeah, that's sick, like, let's
Yeah.
put that down," like, "Okay, yeah, that's good." Like it helps.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah,
It really
but,
is.
yeah, I mean, otherwise, like, I've got other friends here who have studio spaces. There's a place nearby in 15-minute walk
Mm.
from here where I'll just rent that sometimes and
Yeah.
and do like a studio session with another artist. Depends on who's coming through town. I don't know. When it's like the first time meeting someone that I've never met or don't really know their project, I'll
Yeah.
always do it in a neutral space.
Yeah.
Um, and then once I've had the session a few times, then yeah,
That makes sense.
they,
I
yeah.
also
I
guess
don't know.
you don't want people coming in your house, do you?
No,
It's a
it's a
bit
bit
weird.
weird.
It is. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I write for a few people, and
Yeah.
when I do, they like generally if I write for people that I regularly like, I'm like, yeah, come on down, come stay over, like we can
Yeah,
just
yeah,
get
yeah.
involved. When it's like the first time I have them, I'm like, get a hotel, like
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, sort yourself out.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm just working.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. No,
How
I'm the same.
with regards to producing, you spoke about producing for other people.
Mm.
What's your vibe? Like what do you want to do in that world?
I think I wanna work with I wanna work more with other artists who come from a pop
Yeah,
commercial world,
yeah.
but I wanna bring the
The beef.
crazy, yeah, I
Yeah.
wanna bring, like, the crazy production to it, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and yeah, I've had a taste of it, and it's just worked really well so far.
Yeah.
Recent collaboration that I did that just came out last week actually was, one of the singles off Kimbra's album,
Mhm.
so Replay.
Yeah.
Um, and so, from that, we've now got all these other tracks together that we're gonna save for, an album after this one for
Yeah.
her. So, I'm gonna be working with her a lot more. Just other artists who wanna kinda push the boundaries
Yeah.
sonically, and that's what I'm interested in.
I like the idea of that, and I think we're going through a stage now where I think music's going to change massively.
Mm.
Because I think it's been so formulaic for a long time,
Yeah.
and I think there's so many amazing artists out there that have huge followings
Mm.
and can have the pull to just do what the fuck they want.
Mm.
Like Bon Iver for me is like one of the best in to a certain extent, where he will collaborate with so many people and bring so many different people. Like every album sounds different and everything
Mm.
is different, and you don't know a single from another single, although he has his voice and his production techniques. It's really interesting, and I think there's going to be some really interesting collabs, because the electronic world is becoming the pop
Mm.
world,
Yes.
and it's
They're
like
merging.
they're getting there, and it's so important.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm.
like the likes of Beyonce doing the dance
Yeah,
album,
exactly.
the likes of
Mhm.
Drake
Drake.
doing a dance album,
Mhm.
and the likes of huge dubstep artists coming into house music. Like all of
Mm.
these people bring new people to the scene, and the pop. Look at Fred again, classic
Mm.
example, right? Like he's one of the biggest pop writers in the world. A lot of people don't know that he fucking produced the last 2 Ed Sheeran albums,
Yeah.
but like he's a pop writer, and
Mm.
he's now making what he's making.
Mhm.
And I think we're going through a really interesting time. So it makes sense for me for you to like want to do that. Your music
Mm.
is very much like that.
Mm.
It's almost like when
Yeah.
Gustaffelstein did all of the Kanye stuff. just
Mm.
it makes sense, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Fusion.
if you bring two amazing artists together and you get one fucking masterpiece, hopefully,
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I think, why not do that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I think of like the Pharrell and the Daft Punk,
Yeah.
merging. Um,
And Nile Rodgers,
yeah. Yes.
three of the best in their genres, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just like,
It's
fuck me, that
it's
record.
inspiring. It's motivating. It's like shit. Like, what could we do? You know?
Yeah, because I think what happened for a very long time in the electronic world
Mm,
is, or in the electronic banger world where you were just releasing singles, is like it was more so based on being cool.
mm,
It wasn't based on releasing great music. So like the sense of like Black Coffee did a record with David Guetta. Like 8 years ago, that would never have been a thing. Even maybe 5 years ago, that would never have been a thing.
mm,
Drake doing an album with Kind of Music guys. Like it
yeah.
it would never be a thing. It's not
Yeah.
cool, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now the coolness is be as big as you possibly can
Mm,
and just create cool shit.
mm,
It's really interesting. I like it. I'm here for
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. It's so good. Like, there's just so many incredible artists emerging as well. Like, it's so great that now people are having their time in the light,
Yeah.
like all the Drake fans who would have no idea of kind of
Yeah.
music,
They're
now they're
killing
all,
now. They're
huh?
killing. They're just like destroying it, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good to see. Yeah.
And there's so much more of where that came from, right?
Mm.
So much more.
Yeah. Mm.
With regards to the adverts and writing music for adverts, how did that get involved? Because I know that world is very hard to get into.
Mm. Um, that came about through a friend over here.
Mm.
So she does freelance for a music agency.
Yeah.
It was as simple as just me asking her, like, hey, we knew of each other's projects. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm really interested in doing some ad work. I want to work on briefs, campaigns. She just introed me. I've got like a catalog of ambient cinematic music that I haven't released yet. So I have an album of that I share with these places and be like, hey, like I don't just make club music. Like I really am interested in full scope melodic cinematic stuff. That's really how it started. And now I'm just on the email send out of all the campaign briefs. So aside from that, I've had other people like reach out directly to, you know, hire me to compose for the ad
That's so
specifically,
cool.
like the Crocs 7-Eleven ad that just came out. I did a little banger for that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I've
amazing.
got a pair of Crocs coming in the mail. I will never wear them.
I hope they paid you more than a pair of Crocs.
Yes, they did.
Good. You got to pay that rent in New York.
Oh yes, yes. Oh man, but yeah, no, I'm really interested in like, I am a film fanatic.
Yeah. Same.
I love sci-fi. I love thriller. Like, my God, I'm obsessed.
Mm.
So that's like a big passion for me. I really, really want to be composing for film. Yeah, I'm determined to make that happen at
Do
some
it.
point.
Do it. I think it's a goal for me as well. It's a huge thing.
Mm,
I think it's also just like you said, it's right at the beginning of this conversation. It's just about like not just being one dimensional. And I think it for me, when I do other projects, I don't know about you, but it actually takes me away from all the other projects. So I'm not just fully concentrated on one thing, which actually allows the project to breathe.
yes.
And I don't get so anxious and uptight about how well that project's doing because I've got a million other things to do as well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's nice. It's really nice.
It helps. It all filters in. Like every other creative pursuit that you do is only ever going to help your,
Yeah.
number one priority project. So it
I
makes
agree
sense.
with
Why
that.
not? Why not do more?
Because I think there was a period where it's like was kind of frowned upon to do multiple things.
Mm.
Maybe for me, maybe that was just my perspective. But I kind of just always was like, I want to do more things. So why can't I? And then like
Yeah.
you have managers that are like, no, you just need to concentrate on this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I've got so much of this music.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
surely like put more out and then you might get more back. You
Yes.
never know.
Yes. Exactly. And also, life is short. That's another thing I like to think of. Is like you just don't know. None of us know how many days we have here on Earth, and I would feel regret if I didn't, explore every creative avenue before I left this Earth. I want to be able to express myself fully and in every way possible, and I can't imagine not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And that kind of just brings it round to the bigger picture is that it's just fucking music.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
nothing. It's not anything else. It's just music. And the more music out there, the more it helps people.
Mm-hmm.
Which then helps everybody else.
Mm.
Because I don't think there's
Yeah,
strange.
like we don't have a limited amount of ideas. I feel like there's a lot of people who are fearful of that, of like, oh, I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to release too much music. Like, well, it should be an endless pool. It's like something that you can keep digging from,
And it's never the same.
No.
Because you're a different person every single day you wake up. You have different mindsets, you have different attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
You evolve, you change as a human being, you grow up, and our tastes change.
Exactly. Yeah.
How did you go from one name, from your actual name, or from one artist name to another artist name? What was the kind of transition behind that?
So it happened right after I released my debut album. And I started to notice I was pulling away from the project.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm describing a breakup. Honestly, that's what it was like,
With yourself.
The project. Yeah. I just noticed I didn't enjoy it as much. And that was like a red flag for me. I was like, shit, like I should be enjoying this. This is my thing. This is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And so that was also a time where my label deal had finished up. I left my manager. I left my booking agent. Honestly, everything changed in a matter of like 2-3 weeks.
Wow.
And so it seems to always happen like that for me, which is really freaking stressful.
Yeah, I bet.
Lucky me. Yeah. All at once. So that was like an opportunity, I guess, for me to just take a step back fully. Like I did not want to make any music for a good 6 months.
Wow.
And I didn't. Worked in retail, saved up, got some new gear. And then I realized one day, like, okay, like I probably should get back into music because it's the one thing that makes me
happy.
Really happy.
Yeah.
I'm not anxious when I'm writing music. I'm at my most peaceful state. And one day, I decided to purchase an OP1, which is this little guy. I still have it. Where is it? Collecting dust under the stand here. This guy.
Yeah.
Bought it from this kid in a Vans shoebox.
As you do.
Which was as you do. And he just had no use for it, which I thought was crazy. And that was the turning point for me. I started making demos with this. I used like the sequencer on it. And I just made dance track after dance track. Honestly, like the first 10 to 20 demos were absolute shithouse.
Yeah.
But
that should be a record label name.
Shit house.
Absolute shit house.
Yeah. And yeah, all of a sudden one day I had a turning point out of nowhere, and then I was like, oh, okay, now I really want to pursue this.
Mm,
It made sense to make dance music. I've always been drawn to dance music. I've been obsessed with the Chemical Brothers since I was 7, and I would always listen to that outside of writing pop.
yeah.
I would listen to dance music. So yeah, I just had to listen to that and read the obvious signs finally.
So it's almost like you literally started from scratch again.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's like a
from
ballsy
scratch.
move to make as well.
It was very
Were
scary.
you
I had
full
no
time?
idea.
Were you full time in music beforehand?
No, I
No.
always had
Okay.
a retail job, and a bit of teaching as well, music teaching. But yeah, I didn't go full time until I moved to New York
Yeah.
because I have to with my visa.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to work retail or hospitality. And that's been a blessing in disguise as well. Like I've got a fire under my butt 24/7, but it's great. I'm getting shit done.
I think there's a certain thing when there's a certain amount of pressure that gets put on you, right? What's that saying? Is it pressure makes diamonds or pressure makes
Yep.
pearls or something like that?
Yeah.
It's like when you're given a purpose and it has to succeed. You will do
There's no plan
anything
B.
out of the way. It's kind of like you see it happen a lot in America actually with immigrants when they come in from like a third world country and they make it fucking work because they know what's back if they have to go back.
Yes.
It's similar to a certain extent. It's just that the focus gets real and it's great. It makes amazing stuff happen.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. Like I remember reading about this years ago. Maybe it was like an Oliver Sacks book or something, but he talks about like the brain functions best when it's like hyper focused
Yeah.
as well. So it's just, yeah.
It really does. For
Can
me, it
agree.
does
Yeah.
anyway. For me, when I'm like, when I know exactly what I'm doing, like I will get so much shit done.
Yeah.
This week for me has been like that,
Yeah.
to be fair. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, the last couple of weeks, I was supposed to have something in the studio last week and that got cancelled. And I literally was just like, right, I'm just going to finish loads of stuff. And it was just the best feeling because I finished all my records for next year. And
That's
like,
awesome.
and I'm like sick. Like now I can concentrate on other things that I want to concentrate on.
Yeah.
And
when you say that to yourself, do you feel any resistance at all of like, oh, like I don't want to do that? And do you push through it? Or there's no resistance?
No, there's no resistance for me when I've got the ideas. I know generally there might be some things where I'm like, if I really, really, really worked even harder, I could probably make this record a bit better. And I'm trying to get in that mindset. But I'm also in the mindset of like, what am I trying to make the record better for? Am I trying to make it better financially to be more successful financially? Or am I trying to make it better so I'm happier with it? And I think at this moment in time I'm talking about a certain record that I finished this week, is like, it was actually more so I'm trying to make it better so it's commercially more viable. And then I'm like, that's not right. That doesn't feel right for me.
Right. Okay.
But can I make the record better to work in my sets? Probably, but it works great for my sets now, so why change it, if that makes sense? Do I want to could I turn it into a pop record? Yes, I could turn it into a pop record, but is that where I want to take that record and that piece of work? Like, no, it's realistically not if I want to be able to stand by that record for the next 10 years. So that's kind of the balance that I'm in at the moment, where it's like I'm trying to write more accessible records, but I'm also trying to not go too far off the deep end where people are going to be like, what the fuck is Will doing?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
The sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's fun.
It is really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. It's realistically though, it's all, again, it just goes back to what we just said. It's just fucking music. Just release another record. Everyone forgets about it.
Do it. Yeah. That's very true.
It's great, mate. We've just done an hour and a half.
Woo!
I feel like we could
What
just
a great chat.
keep talking and keep talking and
Yeah,
keep talking.
yeah. I could talk for hours. I'm sure you could too.
Yeah, I'm actually in New York in a couple of weeks.
Oh, amazing.
Just going.
Are you playing a show?
No, I'm just going for a wedding.
Awesome.
So if I have a spare 10 minutes or hour, we should grab some food. It'd be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'll let you know the dates.
Mm-hmm.
How can people follow you? How can people listen to your music? Do the promo shit?
Okay, so on Instagram, that's probably where I give most of my energy. It's Brux, that's the handle. You can listen to my music on Spotify, and Twitter as well. That's where I'm also quite active.
Are you
Twitter
a tweet
Brux.
person?
I'm not, but because I'm in Web3 world, so I release a lot of NFTs. That's where the NFT community, yeah.
Okay, we need to talk about this.
Okay, yeah. I forgot that this is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So NFT world, it had its moment during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe in it. A lot of people don't. I love the whole Web 3.0. I feel like we're still very far away from where it's gonna go. I feel like it's still in the early days, but I want to hear about your NFTs.
As an independent artist, it's been incredible.
Yeah.
I was able to fully fund the Bad Boy EP just from one NFT drop.
Wow.
Back when was that? April, I think. April or May. That's when ETH was way more valuable. It was about, what, $3,500 per one ETH. Now it's like 1,100 USD.
It fucking fell out of his ass.
Yeah. So there's that. But that's just the nature of it. Like, it allows me to continue this as an everyday thing.
So can you explain what you released as an NFT, like how you did it?
Yeah. So I released audio NFTs of released tracks on a platform called sound.xyz.
Yeah.
And basically, the platform onboards artists who they like their project, who are interested in Web3, etc. And I was chosen to be onboarded. And, like how it works is I can choose any song I want to upload as an NFT on their platform. And when you first release on there, you're only allowed to have like 25 editions of the track to collect as an NFT. Yeah. And after your first go, then you can change the amount of editions. So you can also choose like the cost as well per edition. But basically it's just the same as like, merch, buying merch.
Yeah.
Each individual NFT has a unique blueprint.
Yeah.
Fingerprint. Yeah. And the fascination is like collectors want to feel like they were there first.
Yeah.
And they can show that because of the technology on the blockchain. So yeah, it's been great, honestly. And also like creatively as well, it makes me want to push myself even further, do more experimental stuff. Another NFT drop that I did that was really fun. I released a collection of the first 6 Brux artworks, which are like these 3D animated masks that represent tarot cards. And so I had like an opportunity to finally fully explain each tarot card, the meaning behind it, why I was using that for the project.
Yeah.
And people were really interested in that. Collectors want to
get involved.
Get involved and they want to see the artist do well and be there long term.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice community to be a part of.
How do you find it's going now compared to a year ago?
It's different now. Yeah, for sure. There's been a bear market for like the last 6 months now.
Yeah.
And people aren't collecting as much.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It just means, you just have to adapt. And like now I'm doing drops where they're extremely low prices, but bigger range. So I want to be more inclusive, bring more people in,
Yeah.
so that when it does come back up, I can give them perks because they collected at a time when it wasn't doing so well.
Did you make the animations yourself?
Which ones? The masks?
The masks, yeah.
No, I didn't. No, I worked with an animator. Yeah.
And you don't have to share this if you don't want. I'm just interested in myself. With the animator, did you pay them separately or was that a collaboration?
Like to do the artwork initially, I paid them.
Yeah.
But for the NFT drop, I then gave them a cut as well.
Yeah.
So they also get revenue.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to do something and I have a bunch of concepts laid out for it. But it's just finding the right people to collaborate with me on that as well, because it's an interesting world. But
we should do a collab track for sound.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's
talk about
it. Does it come out on Spotify after? No. Good.
That's the fun part. I put demos up. I put an unreleased house track up last week. It's just a fun space to kind of just tease out more music. You could keep it exclusive to that Web3 world, or you could drop a track that has already been released or that you're going to release just to build the story out more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, let's have a conversation about that. I'd be well down. I just want to try it out. I've bought NFTs. I've always been the buyer of NFTs.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. And I've always wanted to be the creator, but I want to be the creator and bring more people into the world. And I think I haven't came up with the right solution on how to do that. So which is why I haven't done it.
Right.
For me. And it's how can I create something that will benefit people so much that they will want to come across? I don't just want to get the NFT community involved. I want to get people that aren't in the NFT community onto my platform.
Yeah. I think that's where it can get interesting with concepts, for a drop that I'm doing in a few weeks. It's a collaboration drop on sound, and the track that we wrote with the kite, myself and the Kite String Tangle, it's about the climate crisis. So we're bringing someone on from a charity back home, Green Music Australia, to talk about it within the industry, how we can, bring awareness about, and then giving some proceeds as well. So there's I'm interested in having deeper meanings to the drops and really, bring more of a concept to it, each one.
I totally agree. And I think for me, the whole thing about the 3.0 is that it's actually bringing the power back into the artist.
Yeah.
And although, yes, the crowds won't be as big at this moment in time, you still have a bigger piece of the pie. So you can do more with that to then give back to the community.
Yeah.
Which for me is way more exciting. And I think that's the thing that I really struggle with in the world that we live in at this moment in time. I love social media. I think it's great. It's given me a career. But I also really struggle with the fact that I can be playing a show in New York and I'll put a video up promoting it, blah, blah, blah. Promoters are promoting it. And then the day after I put a video up of me playing the show and half the people going, I didn't know you were in New York.
Yeah.
And I think the whole Web 3.0 is could be a way to stop that and allow the artist the real engagement with their fans.
Yeah.
Which it appeals to me so much more.
For me, I feel like it's a better version of a Patreon page. Yeah, I guess.
I love Patreon. They want me to go on, but I also just don't know. There's a part of me that struggles to ask for money from people when realistically I'm not giving them anything that they've paid for in the past, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, especially the way music is nowadays, people don't pay for music.
Mm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not a thing people pay for. So it's like I have this battle in my head about that, and how do I give value to somebody that is actually worth them to pay.
Mm.
And I think
I get that.
I think NFTs is one way of that, because it's individual. Like, my way that I look at NFTs is, I can't afford art from some of the biggest artists in the world, but I can afford an NFT from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still an amazing thing, and it's an amazing way for artists to be able to reach a wider audience of people that they aren't necessarily ever going to capture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, casting the net wider.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we will.
Let's talk about it. Liz, Brux,
stay tuned, people.
Thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I didn't have a clue I didn't have a clue where it was going to go. And it went to the best possible direction. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being honest with people, and thanks for just being you. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Keep safe. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Big love for Brux for coming on. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe. Please review. I love you lots. Keep safe, and I will see you next time.